One thing I want you to notice is how many pillars the colored gate hung onto. The gate in the front, where the entrance was, there was 4 pillars. You'll notice that the 5 pillars, which would be represented by these 5 right here, which would be 15 feet tall. These pillars, there was 5 of them. So now we have 4 plus 5. That's 9 pillars, okay, that hold up the curtains. And you'll notice the veil. The veil here, there's 4 pillars here as well. Now, the thing that I want to draw your attention to is that these pillars on the outside, they are a little different. They're different colored. They're brass. Brass is dealing with the earth. But you'll notice the pillars in the sanctuary, we have the pillars are gold, because the pillars up here represent the people that will be in God's presence. So gold has a symbol, okay? So looking at this, you will notice that these pillars in the courtyard have a capital, have a crown, a top on it. You'll notice that the entrance of the sanctuary, they also have a crown. So now I want you to visualize with me a couple things. First of all, total you have 13 pillars that hold up the entrances as we're coming back to God. 13 pillars. You will notice that God had 12 tribes, but He also had another tribe. Remember the tribe that was around the sanctuary? That tribe was the tribe of Levi. They were the ones doing the work in the sanctuary, and they were not the ones on the outside. So there's 12 tribes plus 1. That's 13. You'll also notice that Jesus, when He came upon this earth, He had 12 disciples, and He was the 13th. What I want to draw your attention to is this, that pillars represent people, and in the pillars, God is speaking to us. God gave us the picture of the sanctuary. He gave it to us. He says, make it exactly like I told you to, because it's going to tell you about the plan of salvation. So when you look at the capitals and you see the capitals, they're brass, but as you move in, they change to gold. Okay? When we leave this earth, we're no longer a part of this earth, and when Jesus takes us to heaven, we will have the character that we were supposed to have when creation was given. When sin came in, we lost the privilege of being in God's presence. We lost His character, and we had to be separated by God out of love. Because if we stand in God's presence, then we're going to die, because of the presence of God is like a consuming fire to sin. So He separates us by the 3 veils, the gate, the door, and the veil in the most holy place. He separates by that, and He sends Jesus to die, and then He's going to bring us back in. Now look at what happens. There's a change made from the courtyard to this one here. It's gold now. We have the gold crown. We are no longer having a silver. It's gold. But when you come inside of here, what I find that's very interesting is that these pillars did not rise to the top. But yet we have those pillars being 15 feet tall, where these ones were, we don't know the exact height, but we know it did not reach the ceiling. We make them at 10 feet, okay? I don't know, there's no way of proving this height of it. But we know it was down low enough that the smoke would rise over into the presence of God. The idea that I want you to see is the pillars that were standing here have capitals on it. These pillars are not quite as high. Now let's look at Revelation. Let's look at what it says in Revelation 10:4. And it's referring to people that are in heaven with where God is at. He says, and the 24 elders fell down before Him that sat upon the throne, and worshipped Him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne. So the idea that I'm receiving from this, just looking at the pictures of the pillars, I am seeing my movement as I am a pillar upon this earth. God is going to bring me closer and closer to God. And as I move in, I will be changing from glory to glory. I will change into God's character. And that's what the sanctuary will teach as we carry on and then we go through the furnishings in the next few nights. But that one there becomes shorter as we're in the presence of God. and there's no crown on it. I visualize us coming to God and casting our crowns at the feet of God. And that's what they're doing in heaven. And I would imagine we will be doing the same thing. You'll notice, though, that God, when He made this earth, He made a plan. He didn't just throw us into the clutches of Satan, okay? I want you to understand this. He had a plan. He planned for us to be pillars for Him, not to be moved. You will notice that God made plans on how He was going to. Before He made man, He set the stage. Do you remember what He said? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Do you remember that God started it? That's when we find that there's a saying out there that no, God didn't create the heavens and the earth. No, there was a big bang. There was some type of a thing that took place, and we evolved into where we are today. That is not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that God created the heavens and the earth. But the teaching out there is, no, there's evolution. You would be surprised how widespread that teaching really has gone. That's a false teaching. You will notice as we look at verse 2, and then the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. There was nothing here. It's just water. It was dark. And God says, let there be light. This is what I want you to see. God did not need the sun to control the light, because this was before He created the sun. God made light. He made light, and He had darkness, and He called the light day, and the darkness He called night. He did this on the first day. He caused it to where there can be something we can see. You'll notice that He says, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So on the first day, which we know is Sunday, is the first day of the week, on the first day, on Sunday, God creates light, but He did not create the sun. You'll notice that the next thing He does in verse 6 is that He divides the water from the waters, and He creates the air. He creates the firmament. He calls what we call heaven. So now God has light, and He has created the air to breathe, okay? And the evening and the morning was the second day, okay? So that's going to be Monday. Look what He does on the third day. On the third day, and God says, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let dry land appear. So now He's preparing land. You see what He's doing? He's preparing before He creates man, okay? But look what happens. He calls the dry land earth, okay? And He goes on to say, and God says, let the earth bring forth grass. This is all happening between that evening and morning, okay? He hasn't created a sun, but He already had the evening and morning pattern going on before He created the sun. Now He goes on to say, the herb yielding seed, goes on to say, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed in itself. So you see, God is preparing for putting man there. He's created this wonderful garden for man. And goes on to say, and the evening and the morning was the third day. I want you to notice that this is now Tuesday. You're going to notice that he's repeating the same thing. And the evening and the morning was the third day. Okay? I want you to keep that in mind. Now is when you find God creates the sun. Now the sun is created so that sun can now rule the day. And then so now that's what you find that we can know for the signs in the heavens, and for seasons, for days, and for years. So now the sun is to show us the day, even though it had already begun. There are people out there who want to say that it took God a long time, and those days did not really represent a 24-hour period. God created the sun on this day to rule what He already had started. He'd already said the evening and the morning were the days. Now He's moving into the sun, which represents a day, and for years. So all of this is being established. God is establishing something, and you'll notice that there was two lights, to rule, one to rule the day, and of course the other one to rule the night. And He also made the stars. Okay? Now again, you find the evening and the morning was the fourth day. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Listen to the question. What night is tonight? What's the night that we call tonight? We call it Friday night. Do we not call this Friday night? Okay. Tomorrow night, when the sun goes down, what do we call that night? Saturday night. Last night was Thursday night. That's what we say, correct? But that's not what the Bible's teaching. Now, I want you to see, it makes a difference which part of the day. We think that as the world teaches that midnight starts the new day. So when it gets to midnight tonight, that's when we say Saturday begins. Okay? But I wanted to share this with you because that's not what God did. He says in the evening, so in other words, Sunday night, evening, and Sunday God created. The evening and the morning was the first day. So we're looking at tonight really is Saturday night. Now, does that make sense to everybody? The world says the night starts at midnight. But the Bible has now taught for 5 days. The evening and the morning became the first day. So the day starts when the sun goes down. That's important to know in a later lesson. Okay? Moving on. And God says, let the water bring forth abundantly moving creatures that have life. So now this is God is creating in the sea, and He's also creating the animals the birds and stuff that fly in the air. And He says, and God blessed them. Now I want you to see that God has blessed the animals to be fruitful and multiply. Now God's blessing, is it still happening today? Are the animals still, the birds and the fish, are they still reproducing today? God blessed them, and the blessing still exists today. You'll also notice that the evening and the morning were the fifth day. Again, the evening and the morning was the fifth day. Now on the sixth day, that's the day in which God is going to create man, okay? You'll notice that He also creates the animals. And God says, let the earth bring forth living creatures after His kind. God didn't just create one animal. He had a plan because He's getting ready to give all of the things that He's creating. He's getting ready to give it to Adam and Eve. Okay? You'll notice that God, in my mind, I love animals and I love a dog. I can imagine God saying, let's make dog man's best friend. You know what I'm saying? And then remember, what about the giraffe? Look at the giraffe. What God's mind, what He can do. And then the elephant. See, God did all of this on the sixth day. And at the same time, He says, let us make man in our image, in our likeness. And let him have dominion. There you go. Let him have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and the cattle and then the earth and everything that creepeth upon the earth. He says, let him have. He's going to be king of this world. That's what God did. God created all of these things and He gave it. But even in the creation, we've already found a couple things that have been changed in the world already. Understand, we've got to be careful. We are created 6,000 years after the fall of Satan. Satan was kicked out of heaven way back, and then he was very angry because he knew he had but a short time. If 6,000 years for him is a short time, I can't even imagine how long he had been in God's presence before sin began. If he was able to fool the angels who can go in God's presence, you and I are no match for that. So that's why I'm giving you these simple little points about how they may be trivia to you. But it's important to know if Satan's changing those things, what else has he changed? And we take it for granted and believe it in the world today.